Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 14th of April, now it's 11 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my channel in which I share latest updates on the news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment. But before I start, let me take a couple of minutes and address few issues that was raised by you in comment sections. Some of you did write to me on the mail. First is that many of you did notice, send me notification that you are not receiving messages from YouTube when I do upload new updates on the channel. Unfortunately, guys, I cannot deal with this issue because YouTube is a platform of Western elites, globalists, and they do suppress all the channels that are not willing to push Western propaganda. Especially YouTube is suppressing independent channels from Russia. And I am in Russia and this channel is based in Russia. So it's unfortunate that we have to deal with this kind of problems, but there is no way to deal with it. To be honest, I'm quite sure at this point that it's only a matter of time and YouTube will delete my channel, my YouTube channel. I will continue to upload updates here as long as I'm able to, but to make sure that we will stay in touch, I'm trying to develop my channel on Telegram. I'm gonna be active on Rumble. You will see links under this video in the description box to my pages there, and if you are not yet subscribed, please do so, and this way we will stay in touch no matter what, even if YouTube will delete my channel right now, today. So that's one topic. Secondly, I did see comments from you guys that you were warning me to be careful, because yesterday on my Telegram some people did write comments that they are from the Duran channel and they want to talk to me to organize some they want to talk to me to organize, as I understand, conversation with Duran hosts, and you did warn me that I should be cautious and not trust everyone, and I am really. To be honest, I don't think hosts of Duran channel, great channel, are planning to have a conversation with me. I have mail under every video. I mean, you can read my mail, and if they want to talk to me, if we theorize this stuff, they can write to me on my mail. Why they did write on Telegram channel, I don't know, but so I think maybe someone was trying to just joke with me this way. But anyway, you know, of course, I'm gonna be cautious, and thank you for your attention, guys. I will take all necessary measures to be careful, and first of all, to make sure that my family is safe. So that's been said, let's talk about news now, and you're gonna be surprised by this first news that I will share with you, because according to RIA Novosti, Russian forces did manage to destroy Leopard tank in Kherson region. We have interview with the Russian military personnel here. Interview is in Russian, so but I did listen to it. I mean, I would not. I can. I mean, most of you probably don't know Russian, so there's no point to listen to for you probably to this military person. But I did listen to him, and he said that Russian DRG, one of the Russian DRGs, DRG is a recon and sabotage group. So one of the Russian DRGs did manage to capture Leopard tank in Kherson region, but they were unable to retrieve this tank on Russian side. And that's why they did make decision to drown this tank in a swamp. Basically, that's what they did, to destroy it. And yes, as I understand, this is first report about, in Russian media at least, that Western-made battle tank have been destroyed in Ukraine. During the day, probably we will see some photo or video confirmation of this information, probably. So I will, of course, share additional information with you on my Telegram channel or in my second update. Today, this video is the first update. And by the way, unfortunately, I was unable to make second update yesterday for some technical reasons. Sorry about that. Let's continue with news now, and this is still RIA Novosti's report, according to which, and we have interview with one of the fighters of Wagner PMC, and this fighter is saying that liberation of Bakhmut, liberation of Artyomovsk, as you know, Russian name for the city is Artyomovsk, so liberation of Artyomovsk did took quite a time, not because Zelensky's regime or Bakhmut garrison was acting professionally, really, and digging some or building some strong defense lines. No, Zelensky, according to this fighter from Wagner PMC, liberation of Bakhmut did take so long because Zelensky's regime was sending waves and waves of its soldiers to somehow stop advances of Russian side. As you know, about 90% of Bakhmut or Artyomovsk is now under Russian control, and this western part, this small western part, which is still, and let me show you on this map, this western part that is still under control of Zelensky's regime, has a huge concentration. That's Bakhmut, by the way, and this western part has a huge concentration of forces, Ukrainian forces, and as I said many times before, even if all of them, and some sources are saying that it may be up to 15,000 soldiers here, Ukrainian soldiers in this small area, even if all of them will lay down arms right now, just imagine how long it will take to process all those POWs, to make sure that they are disarmed and to make sure that you know their names, units that they are belong to, and just the rest of the stuff. It will take, I don't know, at least a few days or maybe even a week. But before, not all of them, what is left from Bakhmut garrison, not all of them are willing to lay down arms. It will take quite some time for Russian forces to establish full control. And by the way, one more point, in 2 days, Russian Orthodox Church will celebrate, and Orthodox Christians as a whole will celebrate Easter, so quite possible that next few days there will be some quiet situation, more or less quiet situation on the front line in general, even though no one side did make any statements that they are stopping fire during this celebration, during Easter celebration. So when it comes to overall situation on the front line, no huge changes, really. It's usual stuff, artillery duels, and mainly hottest points is Bakhmut and Ugledar direction, and of course Marinka. That's traditional stuff for how many months now. Let's continue now with some additional news. And by the way, when it comes to Bakhmut, let me give you some additional information that according to some reports that I see yesterday afternoon on some Telegram channels, PMC Wagner units in battles for Bakhmut and Soledar did neutralize over 30,000 soldiers that were still loyal to Zelensky's regime. And I'm talking about KIAs, killed in action. So we have no reason to doubt this statement from a fighter of PMC Wagner, who is saying that Kiev, Zelensky's regime, is sending human waves to stop advances of Russian side. 30,000 KIA is at least 5-6 brigades. So it's it's serious force, and if so many soldiers of Zelensky's regime was killed in action just for battle for Bakhmut and Soledar, then at least twice of that, at least twice more was wounded probably, or even 3 times more. Let's continue now. And this is TASS News Agency's report, according to which Foreign Minister of Hungary, Peter Szijjártó, made a statement that Hungary will not allow US to force Hungary to become part of this conflict in Ukraine. According to him, official position of Hungary will not change, and Hungarian government will do as much as they can to promote peace negotiations and peaceful solutions for this conflict. In this sense, I mean, we can only respect this position of Hungarian government. Only a few governments in the Western world are able to conduct themselves in such adequate manner, and of course we can only applaud this. No other way around. Let's continue. This is TASS News Agency's report, according to which Maduro did send to hell excuse me, some representatives of US. As I understand, Washington did try to make some deal with Maduro. They were trying to scare Venezuelan government with the sanctions if they will not apply. And as I understand, Washington wants to increase share of Venezuelan oil on the world market, to drop prices for oil and to minimize, as I understand, to minimize income of Russian Federation from oil exports. But as you can see, Maduro and the government of Venezuela is standing strong, despite for many years of sanctions. And I believe Maduro used exactly these words. He sent to hell representatives of Biden administration. Quite a colored figure, Maduro. Maybe not as previous leader of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez. He was just a legend, but he was very popular in Latin America, as I understand. But yet again, this position shows you that South America, at least, South American states and people, in some states, governments are pro-US or controlled by US, but society in Latin America, if not majority, at least quite a big part of society, they are seeing clearly a big picture, and they are supporting idea of multipolarity. They are supporting Russian, Chinese, Brazilian attempts to create this multipolar world. So they are on the right side of history in this case. That's what I want to say. And in continuation of this topic, we have statement from President of Cuba, Miguel Diaz-Canel, and he did make statements and blame USA for conflict in Ukraine. He said that it's US that provoked this, US government basically, that provoked this conflict, and it's the US government that are doing as much as they can to prolong this conflict now. And it's hard to argue with President of Cuba, isn't it? We all probably know that this is true. This is just simple true. After all, high-ranking officials of US and UK, for example, and some other European states also openly are saying that they are against peace talks. They are openly saying that they are against peace talks. So, I mean, what else should be said? Let's continue, and this is TASS News Agency's report. Quite interesting news that Prime Minister of Poland, Mateusz Morawiecki, who is visiting USA, did made quite, let's say, strange statement. And I will tell you why it seems strange. He said openly that if Kiev will lose this fight, if Zelensky's regime basically will be defeated, then it will be beginning of the end of golden age of Western world, golden century of Western world. Once again, this statement that shows you attitude of Western elites. Of course, they don't care about Ukrainian citizens. They don't care about Ukraine. All they care is to hold on this golden age that they really had when they were dominating over the world and becoming richer and richer on expense of the rest of humanity. And this time is ending. Era of Western domination is ending, and defeat of Western elites in Ukraine. And probably you noticed that I'm always saying that this is a conflict between Russia and Western elites. So defeat of Western elites in this conflict will, of course, give additional energy to this movement of creation of multipolar world, and it's all good. But what is strange that nowadays Western elites are not even trying to hide their true intentions. Of course, Morawiecki is, he's not independent politician, for God's sake. He is a puppet of Western elites, to be more precise, Anglo-Saxon elites. And he's trying to, gain some political points, maybe in eyes of his Western or Anglo-Saxon masters. But yet again, this kind of statements does give you good understanding where Western elites really are and what they really want. I hope citizens of Ukraine will read this information and think for themselves. Let's continue now. This is RIA Novosti's report, according to which FBI did detain suspect of leakage of those so-called secret documents that happened in USA. I did share video information about this story yesterday and quite a few times before. I'm not going to change my mind. I still believe that this is all this story is some kind of deception operation, and this person, this young man that was detained by FBI, if he was not set up by secret services, then I believe he is a part of US secret services, and he will play now his role. But yet again, probably he was set up by CIA or some US military intelligence. That's what probably happened. But yet again, when it comes to entirety of this story, I believe this is a deception operation. And Washington did attempt to mislead, not just Russian side, by the way. They did try to mislead quite a few governments all around the world, really, with these leaks. Because documents itself, they are probably authentic ones, they are real ones. Some information in those documents are probably real also. But crucial points in those documents should be false information to mislead all those governments that Washington was targeting, including Israel, for example. Yesterday, and if I'm not mistaken, yesterday, in the comment section, I did see comment from one of you, and you were saying, I mean, that you find it hard to believe that this is a deception operation because these documents were touching Israel also. And by the way, yes, these documents did talk about Israel also. And for example, according to those documents, Mossad, Israeli secret service, was behind those huge protests that did take place in Israel like a few weeks ago. And just imagine, is not that good enough reason to believe that this is a deception operation? Because according to those documents, Mossad is acting against Israeli government. What US wants to achieve? For me, it's clear. US wants to divide Israelis political elite from Israelis intelligence and military elites. They want them to be divided so they could be easily manipulated. So that's why I'm saying, man, Washington did target not just Russia with this false flag operation. No, they did target many other countries, not just Israel, South Korea also, for example, and many other states. So I'm not going to change my mind, and I don't have reason to believe that this is our true story. I believe this is a deception operation, and without some strong arguments, I'm not going to change my mind, man. But yet again, it's up to individual persons how they will read this big picture. Let's continue now, and this is TASS News Agency's report. This is quite interesting news that, according to U.S. intelligence, China did successfully test fire hypersonic missile DF-27. As you know, right now in the world, only 2 states have in its military inventory hypersonic missiles. Russia is one of them, and China is the second. U.S. for this moment don't have hypersonic weapons in its arsenal, just for a few years probably, because U.S. is actively working on hypersonic technology, but they are behind for now, at least. But they will catch up. It's only a matter of time. But yet again, this information is important because everyone will understand that Western elites, main target for Western elites is China. They scare China as a hell, man, because China is becoming more and more influential country in this world, and China is on side of multipolarity. And because of this, of course, Western elites will try to do everything they can to somehow slow down China or do some damage to China. But when it comes to, for example, confrontation with China, Western elites will probably think twice because, at least U.S. intelligence knows that China has in its inventory hypersonic missiles, anti-ship, including anti-ship hypersonic missiles, and only one this kind of missile is enough to destroy aircraft carrier, for example. So I believe at least militaries in Western states will do their best to make sure that politicians, these crazy so-called politicians in the West, not gonna drag Western world in war with China, because that will be devastating for entire world, not just for the Western world, but for entire world. Let's continue now, and because, by the way, Russia, as you can see, Russia is acting quite soft when it comes to West. But Chinese approach can be very different, isn't it? So, I don't think Western militaries want to risk it. And yes, let's continue. This is TASS News Agency's report that EU is working on 11th package of sanctions. Again, man, sanctions. Yesterday we had information that G7 is working for one more packet of sanctions. Now we have information that EU is working on sanctions. Okay, what else they're gonna sanction? It's interesting now to see what they still have left, man. According to some sources, this time EU will concentrate not exactly on Russia, but on some other countries, and EU may sanction other countries that are providing Russia with the possibility to import all the goods that Russia needs through those countries, goods that are under EU sanctions. But yet again, if EU goes this direction, they will even more damage their reputation. Because right now, for example, I mean, major trade partner for Russia is China. What are you gonna do? Sanction China? Really? EU may influence, for example, Georgia. Georgia is being very. I mean, Georgian government is truly adequate, man. I should say that. I mean, their current Georgian government is keeping Georgia safe, keeping Georgia on distance from confrontation with anyone, especially with Russia. They are doing great job, man. And the Georgian economy is booming right now because they receive some new opportunities after EU sanctions, and Russia now receiving quite a lot of stuff from Georgia, through Georgia, let's say. And same we can say about Kazakhstan, for example. Armenia does play some role in this. There are many other countries that had become transit states for Russia to receive some necessary goods, but mainly, of course, China and India. And I mean, even if EU are able to pressure Georgia, Armenia, Kazakhstan, for example, I highly doubt that EU will be able to influence China or India that much. So let's see. But as I said, man, Western so-called elites don't have breaks, and they will continue this policy, this crazy policy, which is of sanctions, and this sanction war, which is damaging. At this point, these sanctions probably damaging European economies than Russian. But they are still continuing on this route. I mean, crazy. They are, inadequate, really. Let's continue, and this is RIA Novosti's report. This is going to be last news for this update. And we have a statement according to which, report according to which EU had become to conclusion that after conflict in Ukraine will end, EU will be forced to return to Russia all the frozen assets in European banks and in European territories in general. And what can I say, man? At least some people in Europe are trying to minimize damage, reputational damage, first of all, that EU received because of these absolutely insane policies of EU leadership and leadership of European EU member states. Just a few weeks ago, I did share with you information that EU, because of those sanctions war, because of this war of sanctions, EU already lost about 1 trillion euros. And longer these sanctions will continue, EU will lose more and more. And what is most important, EU is losing trust from rest of the world, especially EU banking system. And yes, now they are making statements that, basically what this information saying is that EU leaders are saying now that we are not gonna steal your money, we're gonna just froze it, use it, and then we will, send it. We will send it to you. And I don't think world gonna be happy with any of this. Just a few days ago, I did read information on some Telegram channels that Belgium, for God's sake, made up to $600 million of profit from Russian frozen assets. So they are stealing Russian money, for God's sake, man. I mean, there's no way around it, EU member states are stealing Russian money, and the world is watching. And even if some officials in EU will make these kind of statements to minimize damage, in this case we are talking about assets of Russian central bank, that they will return to Russian central bank, all the frozen assets. I mean, they are total failure, man, those European elites, man. This will change nothing, and I believe in the next 10-15 years, European economy will lose not just investments from Russia, but also from China, from India, from Middle East, man, from Africa, from Latin, just from everywhere. Just from everywhere, man. And this will happen because of this crazy policies that are EU leaders conducting. So this is it. And I'm quite sure Russian central bank can just send EU officials to hell, because Russia will survive without those assets. But I don't think EU will survive when this quasi state is acting like a thief. I'm quite sure more and more citizens of European countries are becoming angry about EU, and I believe in coming years, probably more and more people will, if they had the chance, they will vote to leave EU. Because after all, who are those people, man? Those wonder crazy, like as Alex Cristoforo saying, or Borrell or some other idiots, man. I mean, who are they? No one vote for them, and I mean, who they represent, for God's sake? Definitely not European citizens, isn't it? But anyway, I believe damage is done. EU leaders destroy reputation of European banking system, Europe itself, and in coming 10-15 years time, Europe as a whole will probably find itself quite isolated from rest of the world. And all this because of these crazy policies of Western elites, man. This is it for now. I hope you find this video interesting, and if so, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and excuse me. And if you can, please share links to my videos on my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. Let's keep developing this channel together before YouTube is allowing me to work on this platform. But as I said, I hope you will consider to subscribe on my Telegram channel and on my Rumble channel, because I mean, those channels are kind of reserve lines of communication. So, and by the way, if you think this channel deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, if you think I do some good work, then please consider to support with small donations through PayPal or by subscribing to my Patreon channel. You will see links under this video in the description box. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Have a nice day and take care.